Hi, this is a short review of both a new book on Laguiole knives from Christian Lemasson, who had written one of the best books of really the history of the Laguiole area, the foundations of that knife style, and dispelling several myths that come along with these Laguiole knives that have been successful in the marketing of them but not exactly truthful. And he's come out with this new book called Laguiole, histoire d'un couteau d'exception. Sort of exceptional Laguiole knives in the history. He goes into more history of the Laguiole knife and the area and the knife makers, but it's just beautiful photographs inside of higher end knives from antique times up to modern makers. And I was fortunate enough to be able to find the book. It had just come out when I was in the town of Laguiole a couple of weeks ago in France, and I was visiting with a knife maker that Fontenay-le-Château had recommended, and his name is Coignet, and he is a single knife maker. His family lives above the in the building where he has his knife store. He's on the Rue de Veysseyere, which is a historically meaningful street where many of the knife makers originally were. It's sort of off the main streets now, but he's well worth seeking out. And I had a really nice talk with him. I saw a knife in there that I was just really taken with, and he told me that this new book was coming out, to try the bookstore in town, that perhaps they'd have a copy because the author was coming on Saturday to do a book signing, and the author had borrowed this particular knife that I was interested in to take photos of, and it actually turned out that it was inside the book. Pictured here. And Laguiole was kind enough to autograph the book for me on that page. I thought that was kind of neat to actually have a knife that was actually pictured in the book itself, and it's a neat reference. It is in French, so you may have to do some translation, but the quality of the photographs and the details inside are well worth it if you're into the Laguiole style of knives. Now, moving on to the knife by Coignet. It's got a stainless steel blade, Damascus. This is a custom Damascus, I believe, made by Veysseyere, who's a French knife maker, and I have another one of his knives with custom-made Damascus that he did. And it's fitted with mammoth ivory crust handle, and in this case it's got a more traditional smooth spring design in the forward part called the mouche. That's the end of the spring, that now more traditionally is in a bee shape or decorated as a bee or fly, but this was really the sort of original Laguiole knives were just smooth finished like this, and this was a remnant from a potential locking mechanism that they had in the past, that as the spring material and the steel became better and the hardening techniques, you were able to get a spring that would hold its resilience enough to have a strong slip joint folder that wouldn't close on your hand, and they didn't need the little locking mechanism. In the past, this little locking mechanism would be a blind piece that would go into a notch in the blade, and you'd use your fingernail under the little extensions here to pull up and unlock it. And some makers, like Jacques Mangin, still make knives with that mechanism, but as they developed that, they kept the forged piece on the front of the spring called the mouche, and then later on in the 1860s or so, they started to decorate that with floral motifs and other designs, and then around 1900 to 1910 they started using a bee as a design, and Calmel was the first maker or shop to have that sort of design, and now it's sort of taken hold. It's in a traditional, what they call a pigeon wing, or eye de pigeon, handle shape. This is traditional for the early Laguiole knives, and it's just lovely brown toning to the material. And he's done just a little bit of fine file work on both sides of the liners, but again, not too much to be distracting. Sometimes when you put everything on one of these fancy knives, it's a little bit too gaudy. It's just too much going on. And this was a nice compromise between lovely materials, classical form, and the decoration. So it's just a lovely knife. It's a 12 centimeter long, and fit and finish are excellent. The blade closes nicely. It doesn't contact the spring when it closes, and the fitting's lovely. And Michael was a lot of fun to talk to. He took me back to his shop. We looked at the raw materials for the handles, and his equipment, and the blade steels, and he was just very enjoyable to spend a few hours with in his shop while I picked out this knife. So I was very happy to find it. So hopefully you'd enjoy that.